So we can't talk about healing in gardens without touching on the concept of soil. Soil is the foundation of all life, and also soil is the perfect metaphor for healing, really. The health of our soils is truly um, a reflection on the health of ecosystems, environments, species, watersheds, etc. For us to have a greater awareness of healing in a garden or facilitating healing in a wellness garden, we want to make sure that we have an awareness of the power and complexities of soil and how soil can also provide us. There's a Cooper's Hawk, I just got distracted. How soil can also provide us a platform for some of the activities within the garden. So you may have read in some of the articles that I posted how some of the microorganisms within soil, once they come in contact with the human skin, creates a chemical reaction that then can release certain hormones within the body, specifically hormones that make us feel good. This is incredible. Anecdotally, many of us have known for years and years and years how a connection to nature, working in the garden, can be truly powerful and healing for humans specifically. But now scientists are showing that here are the actual different bacteria and organisms that are reacting on our skin and truly instigating a reaction in which we feel much better. So this kind of reaction is similar if we were to take any kind of prescription or plant medicine, herbal medicine, to help induce a state of euphoria, happiness, joyfulness. And so this is the same thing, but without having to take any of those supplements or pills. Literally, all you have to do is dig your hands into the soil and you can have this opportunity to glean some of this, some of these microorganisms just waiting to make you feel good. So let's just refresh on soil. Soil is different in different areas. And so if you are to start a wellness garden or go into another already established garden for planned therapy and treatments, soil is going to be different everywhere. And in general, we want to find soil in the garden that's really dark, has some moisture, smells like earth. And if you can achieve that kind of soil within your garden, you can then ensure that your wellness garden will thrive, and you also have a beautiful playground for some of your clients to participate. So the general health of soil is indicative or reliant upon good, adequate moisture, nutrition, and the level of activity within the soil of the microbiome organisms, and also like the fungal network, the mycorrhizae, etc. So how do we achieve that within the wellness garden? Well, you can easily start a composting system within your wellness garden. And this is a great way also to have an area to facilitate some learning activities, but also activities that can be very therapeutic as well. So in the wellness garden, it's possible that these types of gardens may be on the smaller side. They're not going to be like an urban farm size. And so you have to think about the different kinds of systems that would be available in that would be appropriate for the size of a wellness garden. So I'm going to show you a worm composting design and also a standalone composting design that would probably be most appropriate for the size and the space, and also the kind of interaction or platform that you want to provide some activities in. So there's other things to think of as a facilitator with soil, in that some of these organisms that are within the soil can also be used in a way that is really beneficial to the garden, of course, and also your clients. So some of the activities that I've shown on your module include different ways in which you can engage your client in some learning and healing at the same time. So for example, one of them is basically a compost or soil scavenger hunt. And this is an opportunity for your participant to learn about the different organisms within the soil, and also in that process have an opportunity for a healing experience. Most of what we facilitate in the wellness garden in terms of the healing that it provides is based on the fact that a lot of it is methodical. A lot of it is using our hands. When we're using our hands and focused on the activity at hand, it gives our mind a chance to relax. Many of us, even those of us who have not been diagnosed with a particular disease or illness or mental disability or anything like that, many of us still struggle with how do we quiet our mind, right? How can we center ourselves? How can we quiet the chatter and the noise within our psyche, basically? And so one of the reasons why the wellness garden is so powerful is because we are using our hands. I would venture to say that if someone were to just sit in the garden, yes, that can be very powerful. But you're going to experience more profound healing or transformation if you're actively using your hands and literally digging in. So the compost pile or soil in general gives us this opportunity to really dig in with our hands. Now, a lot of people are also afraid of getting their hands dirty. For a long time, soil has been considered dirty, like that's dirt. Dirty comes from dirt, and it's yucky, it's gross, has worms in it, all of these things. But this is a moment where we can change that narrative. I've had a lot of students who were at first describing soil like gross, it has worms in it, initially as in my first part of my presentation. And then I bring them a pile of earthworms, and once they start playing with it, it's like total transformation. Just the physical way in which we're touching living things gives us an opportunity to connect to something greater, to connect to something else that we may not know or understand the entirety of. Gives us an opportunity to touch in and literally touch our way into a different system that may not be very familiar to us. The garden is an oasis for this kind of connection. So those students, once they started touching the worms, it was all of a sudden really quiet. And they were looking at their hands, moving the worms around. And these were a group of middle schoolers who at first, during my workshop were really loud, hardly paying attention, really just like one ear and out the other with what I was saying. And it was quiet. There was like this beautiful hum of slowed breathing and attention to what was happening. So the worms are just one example of how soil can be this beautiful playground for learning and for healing. So going back to that activity where you facilitate a scavenger hunt, basically, and there's the notes on the module. Students are equipped with a magnifying glass and a pencil and paper, and they're digging through, you've collected some compost from your pile and brought it to the table. They're digging through, looking at all the different organisms, also smelling. What does it smell like? And compost done correctly should not smell funky, right? So when done correctly, it should smell like earth. It should smell like fresh. And so there's those different sensory experiences. And of course, again, the touching of all of it. Literally our hands absorbing those chemicals from these different microbacteria within the soil, initiating a happy response within our bodies. So the compost activity investigation is just one example of how the soil can be the playground. Worm bins are another fantastic way to engage your clients in an activity where they're also, again, investigating the worms within the worm bin. And again, as I just mentioned in that story, really powerful. And sometimes it may be, depending on if someone has a sensory condition in which it is a heightened condition, this may not be an appropriate activity. But for others, and again, remember in all of this time that we're talking about different activities, hopefully you would be in contact with the other health professional, right? To discuss these different activities to see if it is appropriate for the different conditions that your client is working with, right? Side note. So anyway, playing with worms is amazing and also gives the client this opportunity to see something that's living right beneath their feet, which is also really transformational. These concepts, which for you as a gardener or horticulturist may seem obvious, but you could have clients that have never been in a garden before or rarely spend time in nature. And so it's our job to be very cognizant of treating each one as almost like a newbie to the space, to the garden, walking them through the experiences, walking them through the magic, these magical portals that are the garden.